Welcome everyone to another episode in the Perspective Drawing series. In this one we are going to be drawing within some boxes and discuss what you should consider when drawing in perspective. So throughout this series I have drawn many boxes and I have drawn them at many angles. This shouldn't be a surprise when it comes to learning perspective because it's these boxes that have allowed me to draw and demonstrate many of the methods shown. Now I have also been drawing out all of my construction lines. With most examples, I extend all of my lines to the vanishing points on the horizon line. I also use a ruler to draw more accurately. All of this was done in an effort to give you a better understanding. I wanted to better explain the methods I have shown throughout this series. However, from this point moving forward, I'm not going to depend so much on a ruler and I'm not going to always draw the horizon line and additional construction lines. I think by now you should have a good understanding of perspective, so much that you don't need to see the horizon line to know that it is always there. Or do you need to see all of these lines extending to vanishing points off and on the page? So to start this episode off, I'm going to draw out some boxes on different angles, and I will do this freehand. This approach will mean that I'll likely sacrifice some accuracy when drawing now, but in most cases, it's not too much of an issue. It's often more practical to draw this way. It's not as mechanical. That being said, there is still a time and place to use a ruler when drawing, and you will probably see me do that sometimes. Now in terms of these boxes, none of them are drawn to the same horizon line. They are all at different angles, and I sketch these in whilst considering the convergence of my lines. There isn't much convergence with these boxes though, but these lines would still, like always, converge to vanishing points that would exist on the horizon line. I just haven't drawn them in. I recently made a video solely discussing the horizon line and vanishing points, so you can watch that if you are finding it hard to understand what I am explaining here. I did want to start this video by drawing out some boxes like this because if you are able to confidently draw boxes, then you won't have too much trouble at all when it comes to drawing anything in perspective. Drawing boxes that are different in shape and size will allow you to establish the perspective and then draw a more complex form. It is a box which sets you up to draw whatever you want in perspective. For example, here I draw out a box again. This time it's bigger because I will use this to draw a vehicle. If you observe this box here, you will notice that you can see the top of it slightly, which indicates that the horizon line is above. Also, the lines of this box are converging in a direction which also shows this. The angle of the convergence gives you an idea of where the horizon line would be, seeing where they start to level out. Here I draw out another box on top and join these up to block out the form of a van that I am going to draw. Now this gives me a starting point and the box acts as a framework to then start drawing. Don't worry too much about what I am actually drawing here though. I will at some point create some videos specifically on the subject of drawing vehicles. Instead, pay attention to how I use this surrounding box. I take many of these construction lines to and around the side of this box, and I use it to help me judge where my lines should be. It also helps when it comes to working out the dimensions. I am drawing in perspective, so there is some slight foreshortening here. You can see this clearly due to the front plane of this box being larger than that back plane. Because it affects this box, it will also affect the subject being drawn. Here in this example, the horizon line would cross around the middle of this van that I am drawing, and I do my best to observe the existing lines as I judge the direction of new ones. It's the angle of the box which dictates the angle of the vehicle. Similar to the first example where I had drawn many boxes on different angles, each of them could have been used to draw objects on different angles. If I wanted to draw this vehicle at a different angle, I would have firstly drawn this box at a different angle. So here I am detailing this drawing of a van using the box that I had drawn to block this out in perspective. So in this next example, I will draw a box at a different angle. Again, you'll often see me stack boxes on top of each other in order to block out a more complex form. I always try to simplify what I am drawing. I observe reference images and see how the subject that I want to draw could be reduced down to a simple block out. It goes without saying that before you start drawing, you should have an idea of how you want your drawing to look. You want to try and visualize your image first so that you can then start constructing it correctly using boxes and other basic forms like this. Again, the same applies in this example as it did in the last one. I used this box to help me draw out this vehicle, which is on a new angle. There are some techniques I put to use here, which I have covered throughout this series. Perhaps the most common one is the duplication technique, and I used that to draw the wheels further back, but again, I'll explain that when I make a separate tutorial on drawing vehicles. Many of you know by now that you construct a circle within a square, which means you draw an ellipse within a square in perspective. There's a lot you have to estimate here and judge based on references that you might be using, along with the overall perspective you are working with. So as I said, I will often use reference images when creating a drawing like this. For example, I make some perspective tutorials on Patreon, and for those videos I create a reference sheet for the subject that I am drawing, and that is a collection of images that usually show the subject on different angles. I then observe these images and draw what I see. Again, I am always considering the underlying block out as I do this. It helps me judge the direction of my lines and also allows me to gain a better idea of the form that I am dealing with. These examples are drawn in 2 points perspective, but I'll most likely create some drawings in other videos where I will draw in 3 points perspective and more. I hope this episode has been informative. I wanted to show some examples using boxes to draw, as most of what we have looked at in this series up to now involves them. Also, as I said at the start, I will be relying less on the ruler and visible construction lines now, so I'm excited to continue working like this moving forward. If you enjoyed the content I create, then do consider becoming a patron on Patreon. You will gain access to exclusive tutorials, study documents, process papers, real-time drawing footage and more. Plus, you will also be supporting me in a more personal way. Other than that, thank you for watching this video and I'll see you soon.